Welcome along to this episode of Voices of Fostering. Thank you so much for joining us. And today I'm joined by one of our lovely foster carers, Stephen. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really, really lovely to talk to you. Now, Stephen, I've got a little bit of information about you here, and I'm told you are a father of two adult sons. You're retired, so obviously your children flew the nest. You retired, and then you decided to become a foster carer. So tell us about that decision.
It's a strange one, really. I was just browsing one of the charity shops, and there was sort of an advertisement for foster carers, and I'd never really thought about that. But on reflection, I come from a family of 7, so I'm sort of, I think, child number 4 out of the 7, and my dad died when I was 10, and my mum died 5 years later. So I could have been in care. But if it wasn't for the older sisters looking after me and then me moving into my brother's flat with them, I could have easily been in care. And equally with my 2 sons, my wife died when they were, early teens. And again, if I wasn't the type of person that would, persevere and look after them, then they also could have been in care. So I think that was the deep down reason for maybe looking at going into foster care. Plus, I've got a big house. I was due to retire, and I thought, well, what am I going to do?
So what did your grown-up sons think when you told them that you were going to be a foster carer? Were they like, Dad, do you not want to have a bit of a rest now?
No, I think they were more bothered about me being on my own, and at least there'd be some company. So they weren't bothered at all, and it wouldn't affect them because they both live away. So in terms of day to day, it wouldn't have made a scrap of difference to them. But they were quite supportive.
So you say there, Stephen, that your personal experiences, your own upbringing, and the terrible situation that unfolded with your wife and your 2 sons, they were sort of the catalyst, really, weren't they? There was always bubbling under there that you wanted to be a foster carer. Was it something that maybe you considered with your wife as well? Was it something that was always in the background?
No, not really. I mean, we both come from large families. So she's got 5 siblings. We have 7. But other than having the 2 children, there was really any sort of further thought about having more children or fostering. So that never came into it at all. It was purely down to my background, I think.
Yeah. So tell us about that decision. As you say, you saw an advertisement a few years ago. You decided to go for it. How quickly did it happen after that? And tell us about your assessment process. What was that like?
It happened really quickly. So that afternoon, I was in the town centre and I saw Fostering Solutions office. So I thought I'd call in and just find out a little bit more. And then I think 2 days later, there was a phone call to say, could we come and do a sort of a house visit and a chat? So that happened. And then following that, I think the following week, they were ringing me up to ask when could they start the assessment process. Now, I was still at work at that point. I'd already sort of gone a year and a half over retirement age because I was going to carry on. And then I thought, well, no, if I'm going to go for this, I might as well sort of leave work and do it sort of, fairly quickly. But I didn't realise it was sort of 6 months of an affair. I thought you just had a DBS check, a couple of references, and you were given a list of kids to choose from. We're so naive.
No, we really like to know the ins and outs, don't we, Stephen? And rightly so. You know, people do often say it's an intrusive and very thorough process, but it really needs to be, doesn't it?
Of course it does. You're looking after someone else's children. And sooner or later it dawns on you, think, what a massive responsibility this is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do a type of foster care, which means that in 2 years, you've had quite a few children live with you, haven't you? 25 already in just 2 years, because you decided to do stay over foster care. So tell us a bit about that and how that suits you.
Well, I'll give you a bit of background to how it came to that. Um, After I was approved, I had a phone call from the team to say, will you take on 3 siblings? And obviously your teen as mustard. And you would say, oh yes. So I didn't ask any questions. I would just said, yeah, I'll do that. And then my social supervising social worker rang up and said, what the hell are you doing? He said, what questions did you ask? I said, well, I didn't ask any. He said, well, luckily for you, I've asked all the appropriate questions. He said, so I'm going to tell you what the answers are, and then you tell me whether you still want to do it. So it was a case of 3 children. One was at nursery. Two sisters went to 2 different schools. It was like 45-minute travel distance to the school. The baby only did half a day in nursery. Both girls had out of school activities. So I said, how many people do you think are there to look after all those? He said, there's you. You can't physically do it.
Yeah, it's
I
not
said, you're
really
right, I
right for
can't.
you. Yeah.
No, he said, right, in future, let me know. He said, in fact, what I'll ask the team to do is let me know in advance. I'll make the decision, and then I'll pass it by you. He said, and see how we go. I said, all right. I said, I'm a bit keen. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll fix you up with a little lad. He's 8 years old, and he's a proper lad. He said, you'll get on really well with him. So that's what happened. So my first child was an 8-year-old lad, and we arranged to have him every single month, and he's still with me now.
Oh,
So I
amazing.
see him now every month.
Yeah. So tell us how it is that those short placements, those stay over placements, how they're right for you really, and do you think that's the type of fostering that you'll always do?
Yeah, definitely, yes. I mean, it fits in with my lifestyle because, as someone that's retired, you want to, have time for yourself. So I can pre-book holidays and let the agency know. Um, every weekend, I seem to be full anyway, but then I get bored during the week. So I'm asking, the social worker, is there no one for me to look after this week? And it's really snowballed from there. So I get emergency placements, I get daycare, I get people for just a single day. I get children for 3 or 4 weeks straight off. But every weekend I'm full. My diary now for April, May, and June, every single day is taken up.
Oh, wow. So you've got a really full summer then. So, yeah, as you say, it's really important that fostering fits into your life. And I understand something that's very important to you is your footy. You're a big Burnley fan. So, how did you make sure that, going to Turf Moor was still going to be on the cards for you?
Well, funny enough, that was a question the panel asked. And the answer is you just buy an extra ticket. So I've now got 2 season tickets. One adult, one child.
Brilliant.
Even when I've got more, I go down to the office and try and get some seats all together. So they're all Burnley fans, whether they like it or not. Somebody said it's trial cruelty.
So yeah, they've just been relegated again, haven't they? So yeah, is doing stuff like that really important for you and for your relationship with the kids? Really, I suppose it's a nice bonding experience.
And it's something they may not have done previously. So it's a first. So they don't realise how bad we are.
So how do you find, Stephen, we talk a lot about sort of bonding with children who come and live with you. I suppose when you're on stay over or respite care, finding that sort of bond is harder really because you're doing it in a shorter space of time. Do you still find that you can build that rapport and that trust up with the children, especially if they come and stay with you often?
Well, out of those 26 children, I still see 9 of them. on a fairly regular basis. So you've already built up that over a longer period of time. But uh, I find the emergency ones are the more difficult because with the sort of stayovers, you can talk to the primary carer. You can find out a little bit about likes and dislikes. You've an opportunity for them to come and visit you beforehand and for me to visit them. And where I can't, I have a welcome book. So it's got photographs of the house, things we can do, photographs of the bedroom. So when they come, they actually remember, what they've read about. So that's the first thing. And then I learned from one of them that the most terrifying part is when they knock on the door for the very first time. So I make it a habit now that I always welcome them with the door open, and I'm waiting for them to come out of the car, often help them in with the bags. And sometimes, they clinging to the legs of the carer, or they're just running upstairs to find out what it's all about.
Yeah, I've never really thought of that before, Stephen. That makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And then I've got nameplates, so if I know in advance who's coming, I'll either make a nameplate for them, or together we can make a nameplate for them to choose the bedroom. And then I've got 2 or 3 icebreaker games, so we can lie on the floor and play these little games. I sometimes let them win. I've got a food menu list, so they can sit down and go through this list because food tends to be a really big thing. So knowing there's a list of food here that they enjoy, and we can cross off the ones that they just don't like, they feel sort of happier that at least that their tummies are going to be full. And then I really just let them have a walk around the house. I'll say, go and find a particular teddy, and they'll run up there and they'll come back down with it. And then I'll ask whether they've chosen the bedroom whilst they've been up there. It's all about giving them choices, I think. The more control they feel they have, I think the more they relax and get into things.
Well, yeah, of course, because a lot of these children, Stephen, have been through things that are totally out of their control. And as you told us before, with your own childhood, you were a bereaved child yourself. Do you find that having that past experience of your own childhood helps you to connect and empathise with these children?
Yeah, I imagine myself as an adult being picked up by a stranger, some things thrown into a bag, taken in a car, and dropped off at a house and said, right, this is where you're now living. As an adult, I wouldn't like that. So just think what a child feels like.
And Stephen, you've been doing this for a few years now, but can you imagine you doing it for quite a few more years to come? What's your long-term plan? Have you got one?
Well, not really. I'll take every day as it comes, but I'm fit and healthy, so I'll do it as long as the agency want me to. They said, once you leave, we're all leaving. Because they say I'm on call all of the time. I'm on call all of the time. So basically, if I had a phone call this afternoon, I'd be saying yes, and said, well, we've not even told you about the child yet. So, well, I don't care. I'll take them anyway because I know you've done all the background checks for it to be a good fit, and they've not let me down yet.
So, Stephen, if there was anyone listening or watching who's maybe in their retirement or approaching retirement, and maybe like you, they're thinking, I might be a bit bored. Maybe I want to do something a bit different. Would you encourage them to go for it?
Definitely. I mean, fostering matters because it changes the direction of a child's life. It gives them safety and stability, and a chance to grow really without any fear. And to be fair, it gives the carer a real deep sense of purpose, something that you'll never find doing anything else.
Oh, well, it's been really, really lovely speaking to you today, Stephen. It really has. Best of luck with the future. I hope the clarets start doing better. I really do. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.